Hey guys, and welcome back. My name is D Free, and for today's video, we have a special one. We have Goresh on for the first time in a while, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Almost time for anniversary. I'm looking forward to doing some more collabs together. We talked about it.
Yeah.
But I actually, it's been a while, and I want to get back on the grind.
You know, when you mention like anniversary collabs, I always go back to the first anniversary where we did that like crazy breakdown, and we're like, what is this? Why are there so many characters? Then we go to Vegito, and it's like paragraphs, and we're like, what is happening here?
For people who are watching this, I mean, that's still on your channel, I assume. I think it's also, I think half of it is on mine as well. But yeah, that's funny. If you go back and watch that video, people watching this video, that would be funny. Like, just go back and watch that, and it's like, we're going crazy over the fact that characters are getting like ki from their main abilities. Like,
oh god, look how long this is.
Oh. Well, let's get to it. Main ability draws the ultimate arts card, Spirit Sword. Next, restores own health by 30% and ki by 50. Nuts.
That's already good enough.
You could just leave it there. You don't even need anything else. Plus 30% of damage inflicted for 20 counts. Increases arts card draw speed level by 1 for 10 counts. Cancels enemy attribute upgrades. Hold on.
Literally become God mode. After 25 cyber counts, you win the game.
Hold on. Drawing the ultimate and healing would have been enough. Just that.
Yeah.
And then you do say you get 50 ki back for no reason at all. And then he gets bonus damage, bonus draw speed, and removes their attribute upgrades. You know how nasty removing their attribute upgrades is? This is so stupid. Every time I go back into an old unit showcase, I'm like, God, this is so brutal. Stuff like no ki on main abilities, no this, no that. It's just like, God dang, man, these are so bad. Yeah, but we were going crazy but also like Vegito, like I said, had like paragraphs, and we're like not used to that. It's like walls of text, but now you need every degree in the history of mankind to understand these kits and commit them to memory.
Yeah.
I look at characters and I'm like, man, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's actually getting to the point where like you can't really tell how good a unit is just by looking at what they're doing, because there's way too much. And that actually is a good segue into our discussion this time.
Yeah, for sure. So we are talking about, for today's video, basically power creep in the game. And at a certain point, they decided that, you know what, screw it, let the floodgates flow. We are going to start producing the most broken characters. And now we're at a point where we have characters like Beast Gohan and some of the ultras that you guys obviously know that I hate here on the channel a lot, and with some of their mechanics, looking at you, Gogeta, or they're just producing stuff, right? So before we get into that, I do want to say, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit that thumbs up. Today's video like goal will be 800, and join the comments down below to join the discussion, and let us know in the comments for today's question, which character do you think exemplifies what we're talking about in today's video the most, where we're talking about the character that had the craziest, most broken mechanics that just made you go wow, things like that. And also check out Goresh's channel, the link is down below. So Goresh, why don't you get us started? Who do you think exemplifies that the most?
All right, so I've discussed this on my channel before, so I'll just basically lay my thoughts out on this whole situation. So I think basically what happened was we get Beast Gohan, and he basically has every mechanic up until that point all condensed into his kit together. Card draw speed, cover nullification, type neutrality, endurance, sub count down, like card destruction. He has, like, you basically name a mechanic and he has it.
Yep.
And so what I think happened was they created him, and then they had to think of a way to go up from there. Like, a game like this will always have power creep. You're always going to have the characters that one up the previous characters, how these games go. So, like, where do you go from the character that has everything? Do you just have other characters that have everything, but then just give them bigger numbers? That would kind of get boring. So I think the way that they have decided to move forward is just by giving new characters their own, like, unique mechanics. So, for example, we have the Gogeta's unique gauge, the blue Gogeta's unique gauge. We have hits time skip. We have the Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Vegeta's like preparation transcendent Kamehameha mode. We have Rose's like triple ultimate potential, like it's ridiculous stuff that he has. So like we have a lot of these characters that have like unique abilities, unique mechanics. And I think what we want to discuss in this video is basically like, how can they do this, but then also make the game still fun to play without it being just like annoying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. I think that Beast Gohan was the biggest example of this. But I brought this up when we were talking about it. I want to just kind of take a step back and realize that the game, not that you don't realize, obviously, but talk about the fact that the game has been trending here for a really long time. Because you got to think about how every single, you talked about this a second ago, where every character is going to get one-upped eventually because it's a power creep heavy PvP gacha game, so it's not really surprising. But every mechanic started somewhere, right? So we've always had these huge peaks where it's like, okay, well, now characters all of a sudden have endurance. Okay, well, here's our first character with endurance nullification. So when you add up all of these different things, cover changes, well, here's our first example of that, where it's only on Ultimate because it specifically targets Bojack in this case if you're Vegito Blue, right? But then they put it on kits, and now they put it all over the place on green cards, whatever the case. Like, every mechanic started somewhere. But when you get to the point where you have all of these things bundled up on a character like Beast Gohan, then things get really, really crazy. But because they've also like trended here in other ways, I think that things like the gauges for tag switching or for unique gauges have allowed for them to have a lot more creativity and flexibility when it comes to producing these types of mechanics and doing different things. But even if you go far back to like a character like Ultra Super Saiyan 1 Gogeta, where he is getting that extra ultimate, he has that very long cover nullification, he has some of the staple things in his kit like no switch, very powerful mechanic, he has the blast armor, things like that. And then you transition from there into some of the other characters we got, like I said, like tags, like the androids, stuff like that. We get characters like Tapion with his mechanic coming in. We get Ultra Instinct with his auto win mechanic, which is still one of the most dumb things to me ever. I hate that so much. Like, I can live with the counters because I can avoid it, but the Dokabaki auto win thing is so stupid to me. Like, I was like, why do they even produce this? Because it takes away any leverage you have at all. Like, you just lose. So things like that, and then like you move, and these characters are aging like milk because of power creep overall, but just the mechanics themselves are really, really crazy that they've started producing. And there's a number of characters that we keep on seeing, and it's highlighted now, I think, all because we come to a culmination of these crazy mechanics and then also having the stats and power creep that we see now. Because the scary thing is Beast Gohan's not even the tip of the pole anymore. Right? We have characters that are better than him. You talked about like hit with his time skip. What, I mean, like, there's some counterplay to that. Like, you could tap him out of it and he doesn't get it if you're watching for the green card. But like, if he does get it, you're just gonna lose that character, right?
Yeah, he's so crazy.
And then Rose is just gonna do 1 trillion damage and hit you with 1 billion negative effects, so you can't play the game. Gogeta literally has the most in my opinion, the single worst mechanic in this entire game. How does that mechanic activate mid combo, for example? Like, and then to make it worse, they give him a free blue card to throw right back in your face. Like, he has the single worst mechanic. Like, I have had matches with that guy where I'm clearly getting destroyed and I'm using him and I'm like, oh, I just won because they just messed up.
Yeah,
like,
you don't like the fact that he gets a blue card, enough key to use it, and he gives type neutral, and he gets cover nullification?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is that? What is that? So, like, I always sigh whenever I see those two characters. But I think also, we talk about these, like, crazy, like, power creeps. I think also, some of that is, now that you kind of bring it up, we bring it up here, is Beast Gohan still the tip of the totem pole for LFs exclusively?
You're talking about like just the best LF?
Yeah, because I'm looking at Ultras otherwise.
Yeah, so here's I don't like comparing these characters with each other. I would throw Blue 17 in the argument. Okay. And the reason why I don't like comparing Beast Gohan and 17 is because they are literally polar opposites. Beast Gohan is a carry character who you want to build a team around, and 17 is a character. I like to call 17 the best second unit in the game. Like, he's going to be the best. He's going to be the best second character that you include on every single team that you're running. You throw him in the leader slot of any team, and he works perfectly fine on every single team. So like, he is the best. I don't know. The best analogy is he's like 6th man of the year for Legends, I guess.
That's fair. But yeah, I think also is like, when we talk about some of these topics and we talk about crazy power creep, it's looking at ultras, which also kind of segues into why was Kid Buu seemingly underwhelming? Did you feel that way about him in relation to some of those other top-end ultras?
I probably would have if his green card wasn't the single most annoying thing in the game besides Rosé's blue card.
Yeah. But he's dependent on the green card, though.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, think about how, because this is a perfect example of power creep, by the way. Remember how crazy the tag androids were last year with 17's green card?
Yep. If they got the green card, you were going to lose.
Kid Buu's green card is an AoE of that.
Yeah.
Like, only a year later. Like, you would think something like that would happen like 2 years, 3 years down the line. We are only one year later, and we already have an AoE version of that a lot of times you can't avoid it. Like if Kid Buu, for example, goes for a tackle and you counter with a strike, you lose. If he has a green card, you lose the match.
Yep, because he's gonna just get the full gauntlet, and he's gonna change his cards. He's gonna combo for forever.
Changes his cards,
that's why I said,
and then he gets double card draw speed. Then he locks him in with his blue card, gets his vanish. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, the vanish back. Yeah, that's why I said that he's kind of dependent on it though, because when I was going through his kit, I was like, Kid Buu's kit is amazing, and all the healing, sustain he has, and then he also has a new mechanic where he nullifies endurance nullification. Is that right?
That is 17 has that as well. But the reason why it's so strong on Kid Buu is because obviously he's yellow. So he is a perfect counter to Gogeta, not just offensively, but defensively too, because Gogeta can't just rush him.
Yeah, that's why he was produced.
Yes. I think that. So I think it was a good thing that they made him, because I think Gogeta was like the last character in the game that was completely unchecked. And I think a big reason why is because they sort of they undershot how strong they thought Vegeta and Trunks were on release. I think if Vegeta and Trunks were as strong as they thought they were on release, things would have, like, the game would have panned out way differently, because then Gogeta would have been in check, would have made red characters stronger, then we would have seen more blue characters in play, and then it would have just spiraled way differently. Like the progression of events would have happened way differently if I think Vegeta and Trunks were a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm a little hot and cold on just tags in general. They just
honestly, yeah, me too. After the last 2 tag units we got, I'm a little bit skeptical about tag characters. But yeah, I mean, I think having Kid Buu the way he is a good thing, because now every single quote unquote best character has at least one check to them. And I think that is good. Like, we don't want to just have Gogeta running around with no check forever, because that was dumb. You just saw him every match and that was the whole game.
Yeah. But I think also, like, with Kid Buu, they made a conscious effort to not do certain things, like giving him a way to, like, because, like, imagine if he had that green card with all the draw speed. Like, if he had a way to, like, force draw it or whatever the case is, that would be terrible, right? Imagine if he had type neutral with the things that he also has, like the no switch and the vanish restoration, all the other stuff he has. Type neutral is a big thing that's missing from his kit that all the other best characters have, but he doesn't. So, like, they purposely made a conscious effort to not give it to him. So to me, I think he's phenomenal. I think he's closer to, like, top 5 than top 2 in my opinion right now. But that's because I think that the top 2, which even though he's getting countered directly with this, would be Gogeta and Rosé, but it's because they're producing crazy stuff and getting all these advantages. So the topic we had earlier, for the record, I don't know if you agree with that or not. Do you agree?
I do not. I do not agree. But I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I actually have Kid Buu at number 1. I think he is number 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, to me personally, I don't have him there, but I haven't.
So just as a spoiler, I have obviously the 4 ultras are all top 4 in the game, I think. I think you could interchange any of those 4 as number 1. But me personally, I would put Kid Buu at number 1. But if somebody's like, I like Rosé at number 1, I wouldn't argue with them. So.
Yeah, okay, well, that's fair. That's totally fine. But what I was gonna say is, like, I think that they made a conscious effort, and then we look at some of these other characters' kits. They're finding a way to not put certain things in their kits. But really, what scares me is going forward. If you think, for the record, Kid Buu is number 1, I'd hate to see number 1 in 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what really scares me here, because I thought that they kind of held back a little bit with Kid Buu. I thought they could have really made him a lot more scary, a lot worse.
They easily could have. I actually was expecting him to be a little better.
Yeah,
as insane
I
as
thought
that
that they
sounds.
really held back. My main thing with Kid Buu is that I think that he never dies. Like I like his offensive stuff, like the green card, but my thing is he doesn't die.
Yeah.
And the Kid Buu mirror is hilarious. they're both turning off like negative effects while trying to put negative effects. They're both they do the nullify endurance thing, and then like one of them picks up that effect when he's last man. It's a hilarious matchup. It's so
Yeah.
funny. Like they're the only characters that have this interaction like this really in the game. And I thought they held back a lot, but like I'm terrified of these ultras and like Beast, and then moving forward in a few months, especially if we continue this trend of, like we've said, producing crazy mechanics that some of them are better than others, obviously, but producing crazy mechanics, giving these characters exclusive abilities that probably won't be reproduced in another character unless it's another version of that same character.
Yeah, like
and then
UI
also
with the gauge, yeah.
like yeah, exactly, like UI with that mechanic, but like also moving from there, just the stat number jump, like where we talked about this briefly. I want to ask you, where do you think the next logical step is? Because these characters we have now are going to get power crept,
Right.
maybe as soon as the anniversary, but if not, then shortly thereafter. Where do you think the next logical step is? Also considering that we are in this period now where we're getting monthly ultras, which is largely been an issue in terms of this power creep because they decided to make ultras insane. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like stats and just like raw numbers, I think one of the biggest problems the game has had for a while, this isn't anything new, and I'm sure most people would agree with this, is that the offensive power creep has been vastly outpacing the defensive power
Yep.
creep. And so
sorry. Let me just interject really quick. That's why I said I really like Kid Buu a lot defensively because he heals endlessly.
Yeah.
And he has the endurance. He just doesn't die. So I really liked him defensively. And no other character really I like defensively in the game exists. And they
Yeah.
really undershoot the defense because there's no reason, for example, a character like Majin Buu should be offense inclined. Like, who cares?
I think the biggest example of this too is the recent meta we saw before Kid Buu came out, which was just Gogeta, Blue, and Rose every single match. There's no character, there's no team that could live against that, right?
Yeah.
Gogeta just comes in, he rushes you, and Rose hits you once, and you lose the match. So
Exactly.
I think something that we need to see more of. I think this is actually one of the best recent mechanics that they've implemented. Is the arts card powered down mechanic. I think if we saw more characters apply those sorts of debuffs across the board, like strike, blast, blue card, arts power down, that could actually sort of alleviate a lot of the offensive power creep because it's a different way of handling. It's not like, oh, a character just has a lot of defense or they have like a lot of sustained damage cut. It's a different layer and it's calculated separately. And I think a really good example of this is Blue 17. Blue 17, in my opinion, is one of the best designed characters ever. I would actually put him up there with future Gohan in terms of how well I think he's going to age. We'll see, obviously, because we don't know, but he has the same design and the same aspects in his kit that would allow him to age as well as a character. Like, of course, we know how good future Gohan aged. So
I could still use him today if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, his unique equipment was ridiculous. I don't know what they just love Gohan. But I think speaking on, in terms of the topic of this video, a lot of the racing characters have really annoying mechanics. I would actually put 17 as a character that doesn't fit that bill. I think he's a really well-designed character. I don't really think I'm really ever annoyed to fight against him. He's just a really good team player. He provides a lot for the team: utility, defense, healing, double vanish gauge, like a lot of good mechanics.
Oh my god.
Yeah, a lot of.
I always fall for it every time.
Yeah, he has a lot of good mechanics, but nothing that's like so like unfun to fight against. And I think that's what they should be aiming for. And so the conclusion that I will make about, I guess, my thoughts on the topic that we're talking about is that I don't really have a lot of faith in the development team that they can differentiate between what mechanics are fun and what aren't fun. And I think we've seen that exemplified with Gogeta's unique gauge. I think we've seen it exemplified with Kid Buu's green card, with Rosé's blue card. And I am a Hit fan. I think Hit is fun. I think they sort of did the best they could with balancing the time skip, but I can definitely understand if people think that's a toxic ability, because a lot of times you just get hit once and you're dead, right? Yeah. So I think the question becomes, like, when they implement these unique mechanics for characters that we're going to be seeing, I guess, every single release now, Are they going to be fun or not? Because that's the biggest thing for me. Like, sure, they're all going to be broken. We know this. They have to one up the previous releases, which we mentioned already. But how fun are the characters going to be? Not only just to use, but to fight against. Like, if you're somebody who's fighting against Kid Buu, how fun is it to get hit by that green card 50 times in a match? Probably not fun. There's just not much you can do about it. So I think that's the biggest design philosophy that they have to consider when making these characters. Not just how good are they, but how fun are they?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this, like, but my top like things when I think of like unfun, like, because I think that it doesn't matter who the character is, in my opinion, they're going to be fun to play with because winning is fun.
Yeah.
But I think that the characters or the effects that are most unfun to play against are the ones that take away your options.
Right. Locking.
Like no switch.
Yeah.
Locking. Even other locks, like main ability locks. I don't really care as much about sealing of cards, but like locking mechanics, like switches or main abilities. Also, the nullify options, those take away your options too. And especially if they're in some sort of conjunction where a character's doing both of these things, it's just you don't really have anything to do. So if they are going to produce more characters like that, then I think by extension, in my definition of it, they're going to be unfun. But what do you think are the more unfun mechanics to play against?
Well, no, I would completely agree with you. And I think the biggest character that I can think of off the top of my head that like literally everybody would point to in removing your options and removing your ability to play the game is Red Pan. I remember when Red Pan came out with Beast Gohan, and people, like the majority of people I saw making comments about the new characters actually said they hated Pan more than Beast Gohan.
Yeah, everybody said it. I was saying it too. I was like, dude, you literally can't play the game.
Yeah,
like she chops off all your ki and you just don't play the game anymore.
She reduces your ki. She reduces your ki recovery. She locks your main ability. Like, can't really do. And then she farms a rush in like 5 counts. It's ridiculous. So even though Beast Gohan is clearly a better character, Pan is just way less fun to fight against. And that's really, I think, the point of our discussion is like, how do you make characters that are good, but are still at least kind of... let's be honest, every character's not going to be fun to fight, because usually when you lose, you're not having fun, but... Yep. How can you make it not painful, I guess is what I'm saying. But in terms of like mechanics that I think are the least fun, I think are the ones that give you the least control over the outcomes. So for example, I think still, even more so, it's close, but I think even more than Kid Buu's green card, I hate Rose's blue card. And the main reason is because you can't eat it. You can't eat the blue. Yeah. Like, a lot of times I'll intentionally eat a blue card because I want to preserve my advantage. But with Rose, you can't. First of all, he'll kill you with it. Second of all, you'll get paralyzed. And for whatever reason, this is the biggest question mark, they, for some reason, made it a short animation. So if you dodge it, then you have like a coin flip of who's going to start the combo. It's just such a big mess. I hate Rose. I wish he was... Just get rid of him, please. I actually hate Rose so much. So
I feel like he would be so much more tolerable if he didn't constantly destroy all of your damn cards, for one, and then also the paralysis. The paralysis is the ultimate just FU thing on top of it.
I literally think the one change they could have made to that character to make him infinitely more tolerant or tolerable was to just make the blue card a long animation, so people just don't feel comfortable spamming it every 2 seconds, because he draws like 50 blue cards per game. And so the reason why, again, I just don't like that character is because paralysis mostly. But it really doesn't feel like you have control over the outcome a lot of times when you're fighting that character because of paralysis. No switching was a big one, obviously. I mean, I actually really hate Red Vegito. Not because Red Vegito is broken. Obviously, we know he's not broken.
The no switch is so long.
It's just no switch for 10 counts. Like, it's so stupid. Like, honestly... I really don't want characters like Green Bardock to get a Zenkai or like Blue Ribrianne to get a Zenkai because I don't want to deal with it. Yeah, just don't even... Yellow Gohan. Yeah, I mean, those sorts of mechanics, I actually call them the big 3. It's no switching, paralysis, and feint. Like, those are the worst 3 mechanics in the game.
Yeah. I forgot all about feint. How do you feel about the Gogeta gauge?
I think I hate it less than the average player does. Because at least with the Gogeta gauge, a lot of times the control is in your hands, whether or not you pop it or not, or if you're able to, I don't know, if you're using like Rose, for example, you can lock his blue card and pop it so he can't combo with you with a blue card.
Yeah.
I think it's less toxic than stuff like paralysis and no switching, because a lot of times those are abilities that you don't have control over. Like you can't just say like, okay, I'm ready to take the paralysis now, you can go ahead and hit me with it. Like, it's not how it works.
Yeah, I think that with that mechanic, the issue with that mechanic is, like I said earlier, it pops mid combo, which is like, and then they give him a free counter hit just because.
It's a self-cover change.
Yeah, it's basically. And also, I think that with that, there are sometimes, depending on your team composition, where you just don't have an option but to eat it.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes, like, you have all these blasts and you can't do anything. And he forces you into that by destroying your strikes anyway. And that mechanic is very reminiscent to me of the green card on the red Gogeta, where he's like, sorry, buddy, you're going to tap punch me here. You have no choice. And he like destroys your blast or whatever. He's like, oh, you're going to hit me with a strike. You have no choice. And then you're going to get destroyed by this auto win at the time green card. So yeah, that one, but like you're right. Sometimes I'll purposely just say, okay, I'm going to get this off, because if I don't, he's just going to control the game.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do anything about it. Like, I'm going to lose the game because the gauge is going to pop. I have to eat this. And you can't do that with some other mechanics because they'll have lingering effects like paralysis. So yeah, and also you brought up like the blue card ceilings mechanic on strikes. I thought that was such a crazy mechanic. Didn't that come out with the tag 4s?
Yeah, so
I thought that was such a crazy mechanic, dude. Like,
yeah.
It took away a lot of counterplay. Like, they would go for like a strike or something, or like a blast card or whatever it is, and you try to like use a blue card from distance. You can't do that anymore. Like, they took a lot of counterplay out with that mechanic. It's actually really good.
Yeah, I mean, that potentially was them trying to set up like a pseudo counter to Gogeta maybe before he released, but obviously that didn't work too well because he just doesn't care about any character prior to him coming out. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we talked about a lot of things, so like I said in the beginning, be sure to put your comments down below what you guys think about some of the stuff we talked about, like the mechanics in the game. How do you feel about it? Where do you think power creep is going? Which character exemplifies some of the craziest changes? I guess we kind of, for that one, moved on pretty quickly. We settled on Gohan pretty early because he does like everything.
Yeah.
He doesn't have some of the like annoying stuff that some of the other characters have, but he still has like bits and pieces of everything.
Well, I think the best way to describe Gohan is Gohan reset the game. Like, I call him the character who literally reset the game. Every character that came out before him was irrelevant when he came out, because all you saw, literally 100% of my matches were against Beast Gohan when he came out. Yeah. And every one that came out after him, like, had to be on his level. So I think literally it was a soft reset for the game when Beast Gohan came out. And that's when that's when they decided to start doing these unique mechanics, because that's the only way they could have, like, quote unquote surpassed what he was doing.
Yeah, and that's something that I play a number of gacha games, and I've seen that with power creep from time to time, where it's like they just out of nowhere in these games produce one character that's head and shoulders too good for the rest of the game.
STR Gogeta.
And then they're like, yeah, and then they got to go from there. STR Gogeta was an insane release.
Yeah, I mean, even in Legends, we saw it with like Vegito Blue during the 2nd anniversary. That's kind of what Beast Gohan was. It was kind of like Vegito Blue, kind of.
Yeah, like that's just something that happens. So it's not surprising when power creep goes crazy in these gacha games, especially if it's a PvP inclined one. Like, it's not surprising. But Beast Gohan, like, and also I think what made Beast Gohan insane was he had the full ready-made team, and then they added to his team by just replacing the best purple on the team.
And also just the fact
that
fact that he was a hybrid and had access to the best equips for no reason.
Yeah, and they made Pan as like an insane character. Just, you're always running them to get like it just, and then he pops off, goes crazy when Pan's there. It just, I don't know, man. So yeah, you're right. Beast Gohan, I think we settled on that as being the one. But let us know who you guys think down below in the comments. Again, huge shout out to Goresh. Thank you, man. I appreciate you for joining me. We're gonna definitely look towards doing some more collabs, whether it's this type or whatever the case is going forward.
Yeah, anniversary. We'll be revisiting this topic, seeing if we get some ridiculous stuff for anniversary. I don't even want to think about it. Me too. But that's the whole reason we make this videos, because like we're not confident that they can make fun mechanics for these characters.
Yeah. But also at the same time, I will say we've seen them also kind of fumble with some of these anniversary characters. If it's not the like cream character at the top, like Ultra Vegito at the time, they kind of fall off a little bit, because we didn't really get into this in terms of like power creep, but a huge reason why power creep also is insane is because PvP boosts. So like how good are some of these characters right now versus how good they are in a few months is multi-layered because they're falling out of the boost and then also new characters are coming out. So like that's also heavily contributed to this. So I don't really like, I don't feel confident, but I also like have seen them kind of fumble. And if it's not the LF or Ultra, if it's like the 1%, I don't care, you know?
Yeah, make those characters broken for all I care. That's fine.
I don't care at all.